Welcome to In This Together, the Twinkl Wellbeing podcast, the place where we explore all things wellbeing in education. Join us as we dive into honest conversations, share practical strategies, and uncover the insights you need to foster a thriving environment for both staff, students, and everyone in their lives. Get ready to feel inspired, supported, and ready to make a real difference in your school community. My name's Becky Dawson, and I'm the National Wellbeing Lead here at Twinkl, and my co-host is the brilliant Laiba Sheikh, a passionate mental health advocate, psychology student, and all-round inspiration.
We would love to hear from you. Got a question about something you heard or a comment you'd like to share? Maybe you even have a fantastic example of well-being in action. Whatever it is, drop us a line at teamwellbeing@twinkl.co.uk. We can't wait to hear from you.
And here we go, Laiba. Let's start our first podcast episode. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. It's so lovely to be here on this podcast with you. We're going to talk a little bit later on about how this has come about, but let's introduce people to what we're doing. We've given a little insight, but the purpose of this podcast really is for us to delve into all things around wellbeing in education and around children and young people, the adults around them. It's going to be huge. We're going to talk about so many different things. I'm excited.
Me too. I think it's going to be some brilliant conversations.
Absolutely. So for each of our podcasts, we are going to have a question that we hook the podcast on, and today's is pretty straightforward. Today's question is, why are we making this podcast? Should we start with some introductions? Should we let people know who we are and how we met?
100%, yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, so my background is in education. I've been a teacher for over 20 years, worked in secondary schools, drama teacher, special educational needs coordinator, safeguarding lead, and then for about 5 years I worked in Newham as part of the Head Start programme, and we were working with primary and secondary schools across Newham on a whole school approach to mental health and wellbeing, and that is where I met Laiba, who's going to tell you a little bit about herself.
So me, who am I? So I'm currently a psychology student at the University of Manchester. I'm going into my final year now. But beyond that, I'm a mental health advocate. I've been advocating for as long as I can remember. I'd say around 13 when I realized that my experiences cannot live in my head rent free and I might as well use it to make a difference. So since then, I just started working with most of the services that let me down to make a difference and stuff. And a service that was recommended to me as a place to get support was Head Start. And that's where I met Becky.
Yeah, so what year were you in when we met?
Year 10.
Year 10. Gosh, and now you're going into your third year of uni.
That's a long time.
It's a long time and it makes me feel old, but we have discussed that previously. And yes, so we worked with you as part of Head Start, but actually you became a central part of the work we were doing in Newham Head Start. You became a real spokesperson for the work that we were doing, which is incredible, particularly around the co-production work and the hearing the voice of the young people and the importance of understanding what young people need in the space around mental health and wellbeing in order to create the support services and the activities and the interventions that actually have an impact.
I think I got lucky that we had such a brilliant co-production lead. And so it made it so much easier to do co-production and actually understand what co-production was all about. I think that was my first real insight about what co-production meant, which is working together for something for the young people, because we can't do it without the young people. Was it something like nothing without us for us?
Nothing about us without us.
Yeah, nothing about us without us. Which was kind of like, yeah, became my favorite dialogue at the end of Head Start, to be honest. But yeah, co-production became a really, really strong point. And I think having such an amazing team at Head Start, we became a little family. It made doing the work so much easier, and it meant the impact of that work lasted with me till this point.
Absolutely. We should name drop that amazing person who was Sarah Reeves, who was fantastic at heading up the co-production work that we did at Head Start. And she just got it, didn't she? She was so brilliant at engaging with young people and making sure that she was an advocate for what they wanted and needed in that space. And she's just so passionate, and I know she carries on doing that work to this day. So maybe we'll get her on the podcast one day. What do you reckon?
100%, yeah.
So tell me a little bit more. I mean, we've had conversations, but let everyone else know, what have you been doing since Head Start?
Where do I start?
Laiba, you do have the longest CV on LinkedIn I've ever seen, because you have you work for so many different organisations. I don't know how you fit it in. I'm so grateful for you being here to record this, because I just don't
Yeah,
know how you fit
don't get me
everything in.
started on the CV. I had to cut it down recently. I was taking things out. I was like, no employer's gonna look at a free pay CV and then hire me. So what did I do after Head Start? When Head Start ended in April 2023, I believe, I knew from that point that now I need to use everything they taught me and start making a difference. I was doing a lot of advocating before Head Start, but the real advocacy began after Head Start had finished and had ended. I started working for Youth Justice. I started working for the Youth Empowerment Service on the Youth Empowerment Fund panel. So where we would give out funding to young people to support their ambitions in Newham. And it was such a great initiative because things that we were taking for granted, like providing a laptop, these young people were writing applications that were longer than my CV, to be completely honest. They really needed it, and it really put into perspective what money actually meant, what funding meant. And so after that ended, I started work. I'm working for the Youth Endowment Fund now, where I do similar work, but we commission youth violence services, where we can look at interventions to help with youth violence. And one of those initiatives was a summer work experience for young people who are at risk of experiencing violence and going down the sort of violent pathway, giving them employment for 6 weeks. I was lucky that the summer before I joined the Youth Endowment Fund, I was actually on the program because I didn't really want to go home for the summer and I needed to stay in Manchester. And they were lucky enough to, I was lucky enough to be given the opportunity to be on the program. And then this summer I'm working for them. So how amazing is time? I also work with Split Banana, where we deliver a trauma-informed way of delivering sex education and healthy relationships, which is a really important piece of work that I really wanted to be part of. Because what I realize is no one actually understands that young people relationships from year 7 to year 11 is just as important as the relationship you get into adulthood, because that's what shapes your future relationships. And we do it in a trauma-informed way. So I'm currently doing that. I'm also working with Mind on their trauma-informed policies and how to make the principles of trauma-informed work more up to date with young people's lived experiences and young people's experiences of trauma, and how trauma is something that statistically every single person is going to experience. So why are we not having them involved in such an important piece of work and stuff? I also work with my university on their wellbeing project um, and stuff. I'm telling you on top of my head, I probably missed some, but I'm also a Future Leaders alumni. That program really shaped my passion at going to university and making a difference. So now I go back and give them talks and stuff. So I think
But
that
essentially,
covers the
what we're
branches.
establishing here, Laiba, is that you are the expert on this podcast, not me, because you have so much experience, which is absolutely part of the reason I asked you to be my co-host on this podcast, because not only do I want to ensure that we have the voice of the young person, and I'm not suggesting, Laiba, that you are representative of all young people, but I think quite often what happens is in these spaces, the professionals, the adults get together and have these conversations, and we can quite easily forget the young person's voice and hearing what their experience is. But you have faced loads of challenges through your life that you have overcome and worked through, and have faced with such an amazing resilience that I hate to use the word inspirational, but you are inspirational in terms of what you have experienced and how you have then used that to be really passionate about helping other people. And that, I think that for me, that feels like it's at the core of what you do, is that impact that you can have for other people.
Thank you, but I think inspiration works both ways. You also inspire me. In one of like the most challenging moments of my life, I had your support. I had Head Start support, and stuff. And it's people like you that shape people like mine's future and stuff. I only knew I had a future because no one gave up on me in Head Start. And so if no one, so I realized if everyone in Head Start had my back, then I need to have my own back. And that's why I'm so proud to say that I'm in such a better place with my mental health, because Head Start gave me all the tools that I needed. And now look at me, I'm literally thriving, which I'm sure the Head Start principle.
And I think that will be a common theme to a lot of our conversations, is that for teachers, adults, parents, whoever ends up listening to this podcast, it really is about holding that space, isn't it? It's about being there for the young person. There isn't necessarily, well, there's definitely not a magic wand. We all wish we had a magic wand to make things go away. But actually, quite often what it is about being there. It's about listening. It's about being consistent in the support that you offer young people. And I think that's absolutely a thread of what we'll be talking about. And you've highlighted some of the really key issues that I hope we are going to cover in the podcast, in terms of things like youth violence, sexual health and education in those spaces. So is there anything in particular that you think you'd like to cover in this podcast? Any topics?
I think my main priority is to cover trauma-informed work and how do we make it a natural part of our work rather than like just it being on the sideline. I want it to be something that all staff, teachers, pastoral safeguarding have it naturally embedded within them. I don't want it to be a case of if that student's gone through trauma, we'll talk to them through a trauma-informed way because we don't. No one has the right to know if someone's gone through trauma or not. Assume they have because treat them in a compassionate way. I just want people to understand the value of trauma-informed work, really, and I want to know. And all these guest speakers will bring such a like good perspective on it. It will be so interesting to hear their side, and I'm hoping all professionals that listen to this will be able to adapt to that way of working.
Couldn't agree more, and I talk about it all the time when I'm doing any work around trauma or around mental health. You know, we have to have it embedded in what we're doing. It can't be a nice to have. It can't be a, oh well, this young person's struggling, let's be trauma informed. Let's just assume that everyone's experienced trauma and deal with them in a trauma-informed way, because everyone benefits, I believe, if we have a trauma-informed approach. You know, and we definitely will be delving into that more deeply with some of our guests as we speak to them. But yeah, I'm 100% with you. Let's try and bring a trauma-informed lens to the conversations that we're having, which leads me to say, let's give some names out of the people that we're going to be having on. We've got lots of different people coming up. We've got Jazz Ampower Farr, who I'm really excited to talk to you. She's written a book called Because of You, This Is Me, which I think links with a lot of what you've been saying, Laiba, about the idea of those really significant adults in a young person's life that can have an impact. We've got Carl Poupe coming in to talk about behaviour management and, you know, the importance around behaviour management and well-being. Similarly, Tracy Campbell is going to really delve deeply into what do we need to think about in terms of behaviour, not just for young people, but also for staff. We've got Chris Misselbrook, who is going to share some thoughts about staff wellbeing, because for me, that's really important. We can't talk about children, young people's mental health if we don't talk about staff wellbeing. And I know that's something that you've talked about before, Laiba, as well. You know, we've got to look after our staff if we're going to expect them to look after children, young people. Who else have we got? Loads of people. We've got Roger Mitchell, who's the head teacher of an emotionally available school. So there'll definitely be some trauma-informed talk there. And Shahana Knight, who's doing really exciting things around therapeutic classrooms, thinking about how classrooms are set up and thinking about our environment and how those things can impact our well-being. And also Beth Smithson, who's a brilliant OT, who's going to talk about sensory integration. That's not even half of the people we've got coming up on the podcast. So I'm really excited to talk to all of those different people. Now, we are always going to end the podcast on sharing is caring. And we're going to think about what we're going to ask our guest to recommend a resource or a book or a TV program, podcast, whatever it is that we think listeners should go on and engage with to kind of further their learning in this space. And our sharing is caring this week is this podcast. So we're going to ask you all, listen to our podcast, subscribe to our podcast so it just pops in to your inbox and comes onto Spotify or Apple or wherever you're listening to it. If you subscribe, then that will come up. And just remembering that we really do want to hear from you. So don't forget to drop us an email if you've got any thoughts, comments, questions, or want to share some of the brilliant work you're doing. I know that there will be amazing people out there doing brilliant work around wellbeing, and we'd love to hear from you. So drop us an email at teamwellbeing@twinkl.co.uk. So there we go, Laiba. We've done the first one. Hopefully, around the editing, you won't be able to spot. There have been some there have been some technical issues, but we're going to edit all those out, and it'll be smooth as anything. Thank you so much, Laiba. Thank you all for listening, and we're really looking forward to talking about wellbeing and really delving deeply into what we can do to impact those things.